There is a moment in life when silence becomes louder than accusation. A moment when the pain of what was said about you is not as sharp as the pain of who said nothing. The person who stayed silent when you were falsely accused is now being exposed. And this is not coincidence. This is not emotional imagination. This is not wishful thinking. Archangel Michael says the truth is coming out in 45 seconds. That number is not symbolic by accident. It is a divine countdown. It is a heavenly signal that something has shifted in the spiritual realm, and what has been hidden is about to surface. You may have waited weeks. You may have waited months. You may have cried in private, wondering why God allowed your name to be dragged while others stood by and watched. But heaven was never silent. Heaven was recording. You felt the sting of betrayal not only from the accuser, but from the silent witness. The one who knew. The one who saw. The one who could have spoken one sentence and ended the chaos. Yet they chose quiet comfort over courageous truth. And that silence created a wound that cut deeper than the lie itself. Because when someone lies about you, you expect opposition. But when someone who knows the truth says nothing, it feels like abandonment. It feels like being left alone in a storm while others close their windows and pretend not to hear the thunder. But hear this clearly. What felt like abandonment was actually divine positioning. What felt like heaven ignoring you was heaven building a case. Archangel Michael, the defender, the warrior of truth, does not rush justice. He does not act on emotion. He acts on divine timing. And right now, according to this prophetic warning, timing has shifted. The 45 seconds represent acceleration. It represents the final moments before exposure. In the spirit, countdowns do not always measure literal seconds on a clock. Sometimes they measure the final phase before a breakthrough. And you are in that final phase. The whispers that were spoken about you have an expiration date. The distorted narrative has reached its limit. The silence that protected deception is cracking. You may be asking, why now? Why after all this time? Because silence can only hold truth hostage for so long. There is a spiritual law that governs justice. When innocence is attacked and the innocent remains steady, heaven intervenes. When you refuse to retaliate, when you resisted the urge to defend yourself aggressively, when you chose dignity over drama, you activated something powerful. You placed your case in higher hands, and Archangel Michael has stepped into that case. This message is important because many people are walking around with damaged reputations, confused relationships, and closed doors that were never meant to shut. False accusations do not just hurt feelings. They shift atmospheres. They plant doubt in rooms you are not even present in. They create distance between you and opportunities. And the silent witness knows it. Deep down, they know their silence allowed misunderstanding to grow. But here is the revelation. Their silence has now become evidence. There is an unseen courtroom where every conversation is remembered. Every motive is weighed. Every pause is examined. And in that courtroom, your tears were not weakness. They were testimony. The nights you questioned yourself, wondering if you should have fought harder, were seen. The restraint you showed when you could have exposed others in return was noted. The self-control you practiced when your name was being twisted has become your defense. And now the defense is turning into vindication. The urgency of 45 seconds is not meant to create panic. It is meant to awaken expectation. Something is about to move quickly. A conversation you did not plan. A confession you did not force. A revelation that does not come from your mouth but from theirs. The person who thought their silence would protect them is about to realize that silence does not erase responsibility. In fact, it highlights it. This is why this message matters right now. Because some of you were starting to believe the lie would become permanent. Some of you were adjusting to being misunderstood. You were telling yourself to just move on quietly, to accept that your side would never be heard. But heaven is interrupting that resignation. Archangel Michael is announcing that the narrative is shifting. The truth is not buried. It is being prepared. There is a divine difference between delay and denial. You were delayed, but you were not denied. Your name was tested, but it was not destroyed. And the one who stayed silent is now standing on fragile ground. Not because you are attacking them. Not because you are seeking revenge. But because truth has its own voice. And when truth decides to speak, it does not whisper. So prepare yourself. Not with anger. Not with pride. But with composure. The next moments are critical. The exposure that is coming is not just about them being revealed. It is about you being restored. And when restoration begins, it often happens faster than the damage did. The countdown has started. The spiritual atmosphere is shifting. The silence is breaking. And the truth you have been waiting for is closer than you think. When the accusation came, it was sharp, sudden, and calculated. Words were spoken that painted you in a way that did not reflect your heart, your intentions, or your character. But as painful as those words were, something else pierced even deeper. The silence of someone who knew the truth. They were there. They saw what really happened. They understood the full story. And yes, when the moment came to speak, they chose quiet. That silence was not accidental. It was a decision. And today, we must uncover why. Silence in the face of falsehood is rarely neutral. It often hides layers of fear, insecurity, or self-preservation. The person who stayed silent when you were falsely accused may have told themselves they were avoiding conflict. They may have convinced themselves it was not their battle to fight. But deep down, they knew their voice carried weight. They knew that one honest sentence could shift the room. And still, they remained quiet. Why? Because speaking truth sometimes comes with a cost. It can cost approval. It can cost comfort. It can cost position. And not everyone is ready to pay that price. Some remain silent because they fear becoming the next target. They watched how quickly your name was attacked, and they thought, if I defend them, I might be next. So they chose safety over integrity. Others stayed silent because a part of them benefited from your fall. Perhaps your light intimidated them. Perhaps your favor exposed their insecurity. When accusations surfaced, they saw an opportunity to step into space that once belonged to you. Your silence was strategic. It allowed the light to grow while their hands appeared clean. There are also those who remain quiet because they were confused. They heard the accusation and doubted what they thought they knew. Instead of seeking clarity, they withdrew. They chose distance instead of discernment. But even confusion does not excuse silence when truth is within reach. The spiritual law is clear. When you witness injustice and refuse to speak, you participate in the outcome. Silence, in these moments, becomes agreement. This is why the exposure now unfolding is not random. It is connected to responsibility. The one who stayed silent was given a test of courage, a test of loyalty, a test of righteousness. And they failed that test. Not because they lied, but because they allowed a lie to breathe. They allowed it to move unchecked through conversations, through circles, through spaces where your name once carried honor. And every time they had the chance to correct it and did not, the weight grew heavier. But here is what is powerful. You were being tested too. You were tested in restraint, tested in humility, tested in patience. When you felt the urge to expose everyone at once, you held back. When you wanted to defend yourself aggressively, you paused. When you wanted to gather evidence and force people to see your innocence, you waited. That waiting was not weakness. It was strength under pressure. And heaven took note of the difference between their silence and your self-control. Archangel Michael's message about the truth coming out in 45 seconds is not just about revelation. It is about accountability. The silent witness is about to confront the consequences of inaction. They may already feel it. Restlessness, envy, and uneasiness they cannot explain. Because when divine justice begins to move, it does not only expose actions, it exposes motives, and motives cannot hide forever. You might still feel anger rising when you think about their silence. That is human. That is natural. But do not let that anger harden you. Because what is unfolding now does not require your revenge. It requires your composure. The same God who saw their silence saw your tears. The same heaven that recorded their hesitation recorded your integrity. And now the scale is tipping. If this message is resonating with your spirit, if you have experienced the pain of being falsely accused while someone who knew the truth said nothing, take a moment right now. Like this video as a declaration that you stand for truth. Share it with someone who needs confirmation that silence does not win in the end. Subscribe to this channel if you believe in prophetic justice and divine timing. And write in the comments, "Truth will rise," as an act of faith that your story is not over. When you engage, you are not just supporting a message, you are aligning yourself with it. Because here is the deeper reality. Silence may delay justice, but it cannot cancel it. The one who thought they avoided conflict by staying quiet is about to realize that avoidance created a larger storm. And you, the one who endured misunderstanding, are standing at the edge of vindication. The atmosphere is shifting. Conversations are about to change direction. And the silence that once worked against you is now working in your favor. The countdown continues. The motives behind their silence are being uncovered. And what was hidden under fear, jealousy, or convenience is stepping into the light. This is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of revelation. You may have felt alone in that moment. When the accusation spread and the silence settled like a heavy fog, it seemed as if no one was truly paying attention. Conversations happened behind closed doors. Opinions formed without your presence. Judgments were made without your defense. And the most painful part was knowing that someone who had the full picture chose to say nothing. But hear this clearly. Heaven recorded everything. There is an unseen realm where words do not disappear after they are spoken. Every whisper, every exaggeration, every distortion of your character was noted. And not only the lies, but the pauses, the hesitation before someone could have defended you. The moments when the silent witness felt conviction rise in their chest and push it back down. None of it was lost. Archangel Michael, the guardian of truth and defender of the innocent, stands in that unseen courtroom where nothing is overlooked. You may wonder why this matters. It matters because you were tempted to take matters into your own hands. You were tempted to gather proof, to confront publicly, to clear your name with force. But something held you back. Something told you to wait. That restraint was not weakness. It was alignment. While you were holding your peace, heaven was building your case. Every tear you shed in private became evidence. Every sleepless night when you replayed the accusation in your mind was registered. The way you chose dignity instead of retaliation was observed. The times you were misunderstood and still remained respectful were documented. You thought you were simply surviving the storm. In reality, you were strengthening your position in the spirit. And the silent witness. Your silence was also recorded. Not just the act of being quiet, but the intention behind it. Heaven distinguishes between someone who truly did not know and someone who knew and refused to speak. Motive is weighed carefully. Fear, jealousy, self-interest, insecurity. These are not hidden in the spiritual realm. They are exposed by light, and that light is beginning to shine brighter. The reason Archangel Michael says the truth is coming out in 45 seconds is because the documentation phase is complete. The waiting season served its purpose. There is a divine order to justice. First comes observation, then comes weighing, then comes revelation. You have been in the observation and weighing stage. Now you are stepping into revelation. Something is shifting rapidly. You may notice subtle signs, a change in tone from someone who once doubted you, an unexpected question that hints at new awareness, a conversation that circles back to what happened, but this time with uncertainty about the original accusation. These are not coincidences. They are cracks in the false narrative. The pressure of truth is building, and pressure always finds a release. Understand this. Exposure does not always arrive with shouting. Sometimes it begins with discomfort. The silent witness may feel restless. They may replay the moment they chose quiet and feel the weight of it. Conviction is a powerful force. When truth begins to surface, it does not only clear the innocent, it confronts the hesitant. And that confrontation is already underway. You might still be carrying questions. Why did this have to happen at all? Why allow your name to be tested? Because your integrity needed no defense from you. It needed demonstration. And you demonstrated it. When you did not collapse under accusation. When you did not mirror the behavior of those who wronged you. When you trusted divine timing over emotional reaction. That demonstration strengthened your authority. And now, before I continue, listen closely. What comes next shifts everything in ways you may not expect. The exposure is not just about them being revealed. It is about you being elevated in ways you did not see coming. You will be glad you stayed connected to this message, because the next phase is not only about truth. It is about restoration. But first, receive this blessing. If this message confirms what your spirit has been sensing, type "My truth is sealed" in the comments right now. Blessing code 314 is now activated over your life. As you declare it, you align yourself with divine vindication. The atmosphere around your name begins to clear. The weight begins to lift. Now, as this revelation unfolds, I want to speak to those who feel this word deeply. This channel exists to release messages like this, messages that defend the weary, that strengthen the falsely accused, that remind the faithful they are not forgotten. When you sow into this mission through super thanks, membership, or a PayPal donation using the link in the description or the QR code on your screen, you are not just giving to a platform. You are helping truth reach someone who is crying in silence tonight. You are lighting a lamp in a dark room where someone feels misunderstood and alone. Scripture declares that what is done in secret will be rewarded openly, and as you give, heaven records that seed as well. I am inviting you into this moment of impact. Let your support become a prophetic act that pushes this message further than we can see. Those who sow into justice will reap restoration. Step into that blessing now and activate your part in this movement. Heaven recorded everything. The lies, the silence, your restraint, your faith. And now the records are opening. The countdown is not symbolic anymore. It is active. Truth is rising. Exposure is unfolding. And your vindication is closer than you think. There comes a moment in every story of injustice when the very thing that seemed to protect deception begins to betray it. That moment is the turning point. For you, the turning point is unfolding now. The silence that once shielded the false accusation is no longer a hiding place. It is becoming evidence. What was meant to bury the truth is now uncovering it. At first, their silence appeared powerful. It created uncertainty. It allowed assumptions to grow unchecked. It gave the accuser confidence. When no one challenged the narrative, it felt as though the lie had gained roots. But silence is fragile when it stands against truth. It requires constant maintenance. It demands continued avoidance. It depends on everyone involved never slipping, never reflecting, never feeling conviction. And that is impossible. The person who stayed silent believed that by not speaking, they would remain untouched. They thought neutrality would protect their image. They convinced themselves that silence was wisdom, that staying out of it was maturity. But there is a difference between peacekeeping and truth avoiding. One brings harmony. The other enables harm. And heaven always distinguishes between the two. This is where the shift begins. When silence is examined, it reveals intention. Questions start to surface. You were there, weren't you? What really happened? Why didn't you say anything? These questions may not come from you. They may arise naturally in conversations you are not even part of. But once those questions are asked, silence is no longer invisible. It becomes noticeable. It becomes suspicious. It becomes evidence. In the spiritual realm, what is hidden eventually loses stability. The false accusation created an imbalance. It placed weight on your name that did not belong there. But balance is a divine principle. When something is unjustly weighted, correction begins. And correction often starts with exposure of the weak link. In this case, the weak link was silence. The silent witness may begin to feel pressure from within. Conscience is not easily silenced forever. The memory of that moment, when they could have spoken and did not, replays in their mind. They may try to justify it again. They may tell themselves it is too late to correct it now. But the longer truth waits, the heavier it becomes. And that weight demands release. You might notice subtle changes. A shift in their body language. An unusual kindness. A hesitant attempt to reconnect. These are signs of internal conflict. When someone realizes their silence is no longer safe, they begin searching for a way to reposition themselves. But repositioning does not erase responsibility. It often exposes it further. Archangel Michael's declaration that the truth is coming out in 45 seconds signals acceleration. The turning point is not gradual anymore. It is immediate. It is decisive. What hath been building quietly is about to cross into visibility. A slip of the tongue. A moment of honesty. A detail that contradicts the original story. Exposure does not always arrive dramatically. Sometimes it enters through a small crack that widens rapidly. Understand this clearly. You do not need to orchestrate this turning point. You do not need to manipulate circumstances or confront aggressively. The power of this moment is that it is unfolding without your interference. That is what makes it undeniable. When truth surfaces on its own, it carries authority. When exposure happens without revenge, it carries purity. There is also something deeper happening within you. While the silent witness wrestles with pressure, you are being strengthened. The waiting season built endurance in you. It taught you how to stand firm without constant validation. It revealed who truly knows your character and who was quick to believe distortion. The clarity is a gift. Not everyone who smiles deserves access to your inner circle. This experience refined your discernment. Now the narrative is shifting. The same silence that once worked against you is beginning to work for you. Because when people reflect on what happened, they will not only examine the accuser, they will examine the bystanders. And when they realize someone knew better and said nothing, trust begins to shift. Credibility changes direction. Respect recalibrates. The turning point is not only about them being questioned. It is about you being reconsidered. People will replay events with new understanding. They will recognize your composure. They will remember how you did not retaliate publicly. They will notice how consistent you remained despite pressure. And in that reevaluation, your name begins to recover. This is the moment where divine justice feels real. Not theoretical. Not distant. Real. The atmosphere around your story is changing. The false certainty that once surrounded the accusation is dissolving. Doubt is entering the minds of those who once believed the worst. Curiosity is replacing assumption. And truth is stepping forward. Silence has reached its expiration date. What once seemed like a shield is now transparent. The one who thought they were safe behind it is realizing that inaction has consequences. And you, who endured the storm without collapsing, are standing at the edge of vindication. The turning point has arrived. A shift is active, and what was hidden behind quiet avoidance is becoming visible evidence. There is something heavy about unspoken truth. It does not disappear just because it is ignored. It does not fade simply because someone chooses comfort over courage. Instead, it lingers. It presses. It builds pressure in the quiet spaces of the mind. And the person who stayed silent when you were falsely accused is now carrying that weight. At first, their silence may have felt like relief. In the immediate aftermath of the accusation, saying nothing seemed easier than stepping into tension. They avoided confrontation. They protected their image. They maintained their position within the circle that was forming opinions about you. For a moment, it probably felt like they had escaped involvement. But silence does not erase responsibility. It postpones accountability. Every time your name came up in conversation, they felt it. Every time someone repeated the accusation with certainty, something inside them tightened. They knew the full story was more complex. They knew the narrative was incomplete. And yet they allowed it to stand. That inner conflict does not disappear. It grows. Unspoken truth becomes a burden because it demands expression. Human conscience was not designed to suppress reality indefinitely. There is a built-in alarm that activates when integrity is compromised. The silent witness may have tried to silence that alarm. They may have distracted themselves. They may have justified their choice by saying, "It's not my place." But deep down, they knew it was. You see, silence in the face of injustice creates a fracture within. On the outside, everything appears normal. Conversations continue. Smiles are exchanged. Life moves forward. But internally, something feels unsettled. The mind replays the moment. The heart questions the decision. The spirit senses imbalance. And that imbalance produces pressure. This is why the exposure unfolding now is not only external, it is internal. Before truth becomes public, it becomes personal. The silent witness is likely experiencing restlessness, a discomfort that cannot be easily explained. Perhaps they have noticed subtle changes in how others perceive them. Perhaps they sense that the foundation they stood on is not as stable as they thought. That is the weight of unspoken truth pressing against them. The symbolism of 45 seconds connects deeply here. A countdown intensifies awareness. When you know time is running short, every second feels heavier. That is what they are experiencing spiritually. The window to remain silent is closing. The longer they delay correction, the more difficult it becomes. Because once truth emerges from another source, their silence will not look neutral. It will look deliberate. Meanwhile, you have been carrying a different kind of weight. A weight of misunderstanding. A weight of defending yourself in your own thoughts. The weight of wondering who truly believes in your integrity. But here is the difference. Your weight was placed on you unjustly. Theirs was chosen. You did not choose to be falsely accused. You did not choose to be misrepresented. But they chose silence. And that choice has consequences. Not because you are seeking punishment. Not because revenge is unfolding. But because spiritual balance demands correction. When scales tip unfairly, they are adjusted. The silent witness may begin to feel isolated in unexpected ways. The very circle they tried to protect may begin to shift. Subtle questions may arise. Small inconsistencies in the accusation may surface. And when those cracks appear, their silence becomes louder than ever. People may not immediately confront them, but perception changes quietly. Trust is delicate. Once doubt enters, it spreads. You must understand something important in this season. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. You do not need to manage their conscience. You do not need to ease the pressure they feel. That pressure is part of the divine process. It is what prepares the ground for confession, correction, or exposure. At the same time, this season is refining you. The weight you carried has strengthened your endurance. It taught you how to rely on divine validation instead of human approval. It showed you who stands firm and who wavers under pressure. It revealed the fragility of reputations built on opinion rather than truth. And it deepened your discernment. As the weight of unspoken truth intensifies for them, something else is happening for you. Lightness. You may begin to feel a subtle shift in the atmosphere. A sense that the storm is losing force. A quiet confidence rising within you. That is because when truth begins moving toward exposure, it lifts the burden from the innocent first. The countdown is not only ticking for them, it is aligning for you. The 45 seconds represent the final compression before release. And when pressure reaches its limit, it breaks. Silence can only contain truth for so long before it cracks under its own strain. So remain steady. Do not rush to confront. Do not seek to accelerate what is already in motion. The weight they are carrying will produce its own outcome. And when unspoken truth finally finds its voice, it will not whisper. It will clear the air with undeniable clarity. The burden of silence is heavy. The burden of integrity is strengthening. And very soon, the difference between the two will be visible to everyone. There is a moment when divine justice shifts from silent observation to decisive action. That moment is not chaotic. It is not reckless. It is precise. And you are standing at the edge of it now. For a long time, it felt like nothing was happening. It seemed as though the accusation was floating freely while truth remained restrained. But what you could not see was the careful alignment taking place behind the scenes. Divine justice does not move in panic. It moves in perfection. Archangel Michael is not a symbol of delayed reaction. He is a symbol of strategic intervention. When he steps into a matter, it is because the timing has matured. Justice delayed is not justice denied, it is justice prepared. The waiting season you endured was not passive. It was purposeful. Evidence was settling. Motives were surfacing. Hearts were being revealed. And now, what was being prepared in silence is ready to move swiftly. Swift does not mean chaotic. It means unstoppable. When divine justice begins to unfold, it carries a momentum that human interference cannot block. Conversations begin aligning. Details resurface at the right moment. The right ears hear the right information. The right questions are asked. And suddenly, what seemed buried begins to rise without force. You may notice the acceleration, a shift in how people speak to you, a subtle change in tone from those who once seemed distant, a hesitation in the confidence of the accuser. These are signs that justice is in motion. The spiritual atmosphere is rearranging itself. And when heaven rearranges circumstances, it does so with precision. Understand this clearly. Divine justice is not revenge. Revenge seeks to harm. Justice seeks to restore balance. You are not being positioned to celebrate someone else's downfall. You are being positioned to witness the restoration of truth. There is a difference, and that difference protects your heart from becoming hardened. When you were falsely accused, you may have asked, "Why is this allowed?" But the better question is, what is being revealed through this? Trials expose character. Pressure reveals loyalty. Silence exposes motive. And endurance reveals strength. Through this process, you have grown. You have learned who stands with you and who retreats under tension. You have learned the value of quiet confidence. And now you are about to see the value of divine timing. Swift justice often surprises those who believed they were secure. The silent witness and the accuser may have grown comfortable. Time passed. The intensity of the moment faded. They assumed the story had settled permanently in their favor. But what they did not understand is that heaven's timeline does not operate on human comfort. When the appointed moment arrives, it interrupts assumptions. The truth coming out in 45 seconds represents this interruption. It signals that the season of hidden imbalance is ending. The scale is correcting, and correction can happen faster than the original demid. Lies spread quickly, but truth travels with authority. When truth surfaces, it does not need repetition to be believed. It carries clarity. You might feel a mixture of emotions as this begins to unfold. Relief, anticipation, even nervousness. That is natural. Vindication can feel overwhelming when you have grown accustomed to defending yourself silently. But prepare your heart now. Do not respond with pride. Do not respond with bitterness. Respond with steadiness. Because divine justice also tests humility. When the truth becomes visible, you will have an opportunity to either elevate yourself or remain grounded. Choose grounded. Let your character continue speaking. Let your consistency remain intact. The same composure that carried you through accusation must carry you through vindication. There is also protection in divine justice. Archangel Michael does not only expose, he shields. As truth rises, he guards your reputation from further distortion. He ensures that the correction does not create new chaos around you. This is why you were instructed to wait. Acting prematurely could have complicated what heaven intended to simplify. The speed of what is coming may shock you. A sudden confession, an unexpected omission, a detail revealed that shifts the entire narrative. It may not unfold exactly how you imagined. Divine justice rarely follows our personal scripts, but when it arrives, you will recognize it. There will be a clarity that removes doubt, and in that clarity, you will see something powerful. Your silence in the storm was not weakness. It was wisdom. While others spoke prematurely, You waited. While others protected themselves, you trusted higher protection. And now that trust is being honored, divine justice moves swiftly when the time is right. And the time is right. The season of imbalance is closing. The correction is accelerating. And what once felt stagnant is now in motion. Stand firm. Remain composed. The defender of truth is active. The scale is adjusting. And what has been delayed is about to move with undeniable speed. There is a distinct difference between private conviction and public revelation. Private conviction begins in the heart, in quiet moments where a person wrestles with what they know is true. But public revelation is different. It steps into the light. It changes conversations. It shifts perceptions. And that is the stage you are approaching now, the public reveal. For a long time, everything happened behind closed doors. The accusation spread through whispers, side conversations, subtle glances, and incomplete stories. Your name traveled through rooms you never entered. Opinions were formed without your presence. But what begins in secret does not always remain there. When divine justice moves from preparation to manifestation, the hidden becomes visible. The public reveal does not always look dramatic. It may not come with a loud announcement or a formal apology. Sometimes it arrives through something small but undeniable. A detail that contradicts the original story. A moment when the silent witness hesitates and then speaks. A conversation where someone says, "That's not what really happened." And in that instant, the narrative begins to collapse. The power of a public reveal is not in volume. It is in clarity. Once truth enters the room, confusion starts to dissolve. Those who believed the accusation with certainty begin to reconsider. Those who doubted quietly begin to feel validated. And those who remain neutral begin to lean toward truth. The atmosphere changes. You may not even be present when the first crack appears. That is what makes it so powerful. The correction does not require your performance. It does not depend on your defense. It unfolds independently, which makes it credible. When people realize that the story they accepted was incomplete or distorted, they do not only question the accuser, they question the silence that supported it. And here is where restoration begins. Not instantly, not perfectly, but steadily. People who once seemed distant may start reconnecting. Opportunities that felt closed may reopen subtly. Invitations that stopped coming may quietly resume. This is how public perception shifts, gradually at first, then unmistakably. There is also something happening within the silent witness during this reveal. The weight they have been carrying intensifies when truth moves into the open. If they choose to speak now, their words will carry a different tone. No longer protective of themselves, but corrective of the past. If they remain silent even as cracks appear, their silence becomes louder than ever. Either way, exposure is active. The public reveal is not about humiliation. It is about alignment. Lies create misalignment. They distort relationships. They alter trust. They confuse judgment. But when truth surfaces, it realigns what was thrown off balance. And that realignment benefits you. Some people may approach you cautiously, unsure how to address what happened. They may not offer a direct apology, but their behavior will shift. Respect will return in subtle ways. Their tone will soften. Their posture will change. You will sense it. The same rooms that once felt heavy may begin to feel lighter. This is the beginning of reputation rebuilding. Not through force, not through self-promotion, but through correction. When truth becomes public, it has a cleansing effect. It washes away exaggeration. It strips away distortion. It restores proportion. But I need to caution you here. As the reveal unfolds, guard your response. Vindication can tempt you to say, "I told you so." It can tempt you to replay the pain publicly. Resist that urge. Your strength has always been your composure. Let that continue. The most powerful response to public correction is quiet confidence. There may also be moments of mixed emotion. Relief, yes, but perhaps also sadness, because exposure confirms what you already knew. Someone you trusted chose silence. The reality does not disappear just because truth emerges. Allow yourself to process it. Restoration of your name does not require denial of your pain. The public reveal may unfold in layers. First doubt, then discussion, then clarity, and finally acceptance. Once acceptance settles, the false accusation loses its influence completely. It becomes a past misunderstanding instead of a defining label. And here is the deeper truth. When your name is restored publicly, your credibility increases beyond where it was before. Enduring false accusation without collapsing builds a strength that people notice. Your resilience becomes part of your story. Your integrity becomes proven rather than assumed. The 45-second declaration was not exaggeration. It was a signal that the shift would be swift once it began. And now it has begun. The quiet corrections are starting. The small revelations are surfacing. The confidence of the false narrative is weakening. You stood through misunderstanding. You endured silence. You carried weight that was never yours. And now, as truth steps into public view, you are stepping into restoration. The reveal is unfolding. The air is clearing. And your name is rising again. This is not just a moment of exposure for someone else. This is your season of vindication. And vindication is more than being proven right. It is the restoration of what was quietly taken from you. It is the lifting of a weight you carried without consent. It is the return of peace to your name. When you were falsely accused, something shifted internally. Even if you tried to act unaffected, there was a subtle heaviness that followed you. You became more cautious, more observant, perhaps even more reserved. You measured your words carefully. You questioned who truly stood with you. That kind of experience changes a person. But vindication brings healing to those hidden wounds. Now that truth is surfacing, you may begin to feel something unexpected, relief mixed with vulnerability. Relief because the pressure is easing. Vulnerability because the exposure confirms that what happened was real. Do not rush past this emotional transition. Vindication is not only external correction, it is internal restoration. There is a quiet dignity in being vindicated without having to fight for it. You did not manipulate outcomes. You did not spread counter-accusations. You did not force people to choose sides. You stood firm. And because you stood firm, the restoration happening now carries purity. It cannot be dismissed as self-defense. It is recognized as truth. You may start noticing doors reopening, conversations becoming warmer, invitations returning. People who once seemed distant now offering subtle respect. These are signs that your name is being recalibrated in the minds of others. The narrative that once worked against you is losing influence, and the space that was clouded is becoming clear. But vindication is not only about others changing their perception. It is also about you reclaiming your confidence. False accusations can make you second-guess yourself. You may have wondered, did I do something wrong? Even when you knew you were innocent, doubt tried to creep in. Vindication silences that inner questioning. It restores your certainty. This is also a season of elevation, because when someone walks through accusation with integrity and tact, they emerge stronger. Your resilience has been tested. Your patience has been stretched. Your character has been observed under pressure. And now that the pressure is lifting, what remains is refined strength. Do not underestimate what you have gained in this process. Discernment has increased within you. You now recognize who stands firm and who retreats when tension rises. You understand the value of quiet strength. You have learned that reputation built on truth withstands storms. These lessons are part of your vindication. There may still be moments when you remember the silence that hurt you. Healing does not erase memory overnight. But each day that truth stands visibly in your favor will soften that pain. Each corrected conversation will reinforce your peace. Each restored connection will remind you that endurance was worth it. As this season unfolds, remain humble. Vindication is not an invitation to boast. It is an invitation to walk taller without arrogance. Let your actions continue speaking louder than any explanation. The same composure that carried you through accusation will now carry you through restoration. And listen carefully, this is important. The vindication you are experiencing is not accidental. It is the result of alignment. You aligned with patience instead of panic. You aligned with trust instead of retaliation. You aligned with integrity instead of impulse. That alignment activated protection. Now, as we step deeper into this vindication season, I need you to hold on to something powerful. What is about to unfold next will solidify everything you have sensed. The shift is not finished yet. What comes after this will confirm that the restoration is complete. You will be glad you stayed connected to this message, because the next revelation seals it. Before we continue, receive this blessing. If you feel the weight lifting from your name, type "vindicated by truth" in the comments right now. Blessing code 852 is now activated over your life. As you declare it, you seal this season of restoration. Peace replaces pressure. Confidence replaces doubt. And clarity surrounds your reputation. Now, I want to speak directly to those who feel this vindication deeply in their spirit. This channel carries messages that defend the innocent and strengthen the weary. When you sow into this mission through super thanks, membership, or a PayPal donation using the link in the description or the QR code on your screen, you are planting seeds into soil that restores broken reputations. You are helping truth travel further. Scripture declares that those who sow generously will reap generously, and your support becomes a prophetic act of alignment. I am calling you into this moment, not as a spectator, but as a partner in spreading light. As you give, may restoration multiply in your own life. Step into that blessing now and release your seed. Your vindication season has begun. The weight is lifting. The air is clearing. And the truth that once felt distant is now standing beside you. Now that truth is rising and vindication has begun, the question becomes urgent. What must you do in this moment? When exposure unfolds and correction begins, your response determines how fully you step into restoration. This is not the time to relax spiritually. This is the time to position yourself wisely. First, remain silent in the right way. Not the silence of fear. Not the silence that enables injustice, but the silence of confidence. You do not need to announce that you were right. You do not need to gather people and replay the story from your perspective. Let heaven's correction speak. There is power in restraint, especially when the atmosphere is already shifting in your favor. Second, guard your heart from bitterness. This is critical. Vindication can tempt you to rehearse the pain repeatedly. It can tempt you to savor the discomfort of the one who stayed silent. But bitterness will poison the very restoration you prayed for. Release the desire to see them struggle. Justice is unfolding without your help. You not interfere with it by allowing resentment to take root. Third, prepare for restoration. Yes, prepare. Because when your name is cleared, opportunities follow. Doors that once seemed closed may begin to open again. People who distance themselves may approach cautiously. Influence that seemed reduced may return stronger. If you remain emotionally stuck in the accusation phase, you will miss the restoration phase. Give your posture. Lift your head. Expect movement. There is also a practical dimension to this moment. Be consistent. Continue walking in integrity. Continue speaking carefully. Continue showing the same character that sustained you during accusation. Some people will watch closely to see if indication changes you. Let them see maturity. Let them see steadiness. Let them see growth. You must also refine your circle. Not everyone who reconnects deserves full access again. Forgiveness does not require restored proximity. Learn from what happened. Pay attention to who stood firm and who wavered. Discernment is one of the gifts this season gave you. Use it wisely. And here is something else you must do right now. Strengthen your voice, but not in defense, in purpose. False accusation tried to silence you indirectly, and tried to reduce your confidence. But vindication restores your authority. Use that authority for good. Speak truth. Encourage others. Stand for integrity when you see it tested. What you endured was not only about you. It was preparation. If this message is guiding you right now, take a moment to act. Like this video as a declaration that you choose integrity over bitterness. Share it with someone who is walking through false accusation and needs direction. Subscribe to this channel if you believe in prophetic timing and divine justice. And write in the comments, "I walk in restoration," as a personal declaration that you are stepping forward with confidence. Your engagement is not routine. It is alignment. There is also a deeper spiritual posture required. Stay grateful. Gratitude protects your heart from pride. When correction unfolds in your favor, thank God quietly. Recognize that vindication did not come from manipulation but from alignment. Gratitude keeps you grounded and ensures that this victory strengthens rather than inflates you. You must also remain patient. Even though the shift has begun, not everyone will adjust at the same speed. Some will need time to process the correction. Some may never openly admit they were wrong, and that is okay. Vindication does not require universal applause. It requires truth standing firm. Listen carefully to this final instruction for this season. Do not reopen battles that heaven has already resolved. Once truth is clear, resist the urge to revisit every detail publicly. Closure is powerful. Let the matter settle. Move forward with dignity. Now hold on to this, because what comes next will finalize what has been building. The next phase confirms that this was never just about clearing your name. It was about elevating your position. What is about to be revealed will show you that exposure was only the beginning of a greater shift. Stay anchored in this awareness, because the final alignment changes everything. The 45-second declaration was not only about exposure, it was about activation. And you are activated now. Activated in confidence. Activated in clarity. Activated in purpose. Stand steady. Walk forward. Keep your heart clean. And prepare, because the final stage of this divine correction is closer than you realize. There is something electrifying about a countdown. When numbers begin to fall, 45, 44, 43. Everything within you becomes alert. You know that when the final second arrives, something irreversible will happen. The declaration that the truth is coming out in 45 seconds is not poetic exaggeration. It is prophetic timing. It is the announcement that delay has expired and manifestation has begun. For a long time, it felt like time was your enemy. Days passed with no correction. Weeks moved forward with no apology. The accusation seemed to settle into the atmosphere as if it had always belonged there. You may have wondered if the lie had permanently attached itself to your name. But what you could not see was that heaven was not idle during the silence. Preparation was taking place. The countdown only begins after preparation is complete. Rockets are not launched randomly. Systems are checked. Coordinates are aligned. Timing is calculated with precision. In the same way, this 45-second prophetic countdown signals that alignment has already occurred in the unseen realm. Conversations have been positioned. Hearts have been weighed. Motives have been exposed internally. The stage is set. The number 45 represents compression before release. When pressure builds to its maximum point, it cannot remain contained. It must break open. Truth has been under pressure. Silence attempted to compress it. Fear attempted to restrain it. Self-preservation attempted to suppress it. But pressure has limits, and those limits have now been reached. As a countdown progresses, intensity increases. The early numbers feel distant, but as it approaches zero, every second feels heavier. That is the spiritual environment surrounding you right now. You may sense a subtle shift in the atmosphere. Conversations may feel different. There may be a tension in the air that is difficult to explain. That tension is not danger, it is release approaching. The person who stayed silent may be feeling this compression most strongly. Internally, they sense movement. They may not fully understand it, but something feels unstable. The narrative they relied on no longer feels secure. The comfort they found in saying nothing is dissolving. During a countdown, there is no turning back. Once it begins, it moves forward relentlessly. You, on the other hand, may feel a surprising calm. After everything you endured, you would expect anxiety. But instead, there is steadiness. That steadiness is confirmation. It signals that you are aligned with the outcome. When divine justice accelerates, it brings peace to the innocent before it brings exposure to the responsible. What happens in the final seconds of a prophetic countdown? Alignment becomes visible. A forgotten detail resurfaces at the perfect moment. Someone recalls a conversation they once dismissed. A message, a memory, or a witness emerges unexpectedly. These are not coincidences. They are synchronized intersections of truth and timing. You do not need to orchestrate this moment. That is crucial. If you interfere, you disrupt the purity of what is unfolding. The power of this 45-second declaration is that it unfolds without your manipulation. It stands independently. When truth surfaces on its own, it carries authority that cannot be dismissed as retaliation. There is also a shift in momentum happening right now. Up until this point, momentum favored the accusation. Doubt spread quickly. Assumptions traveled easily. Silence reinforced distortion. But now momentum has reversed. Questions are targeting the original story. Doubt is attaching itself to the accuser. Confidence in the false narrative is weakening. Momentum is powerful because once it changes direction, it moves swiftly. A single moment can redefine perception. One honest admission can unravel weeks of misunderstanding. One contradiction can dismantle certainty. And when that unraveling begins, it does not require repetition. It spreads naturally. The prophetic countdown also carries another message. This was never about humiliation. It was about correction. Correction restores balance. When a scale had been tipped unfairly, adjustment must occur. The 45 seconds represent the final adjustment before equilibrium is restored. As the countdown completes, you must remain grounded. Do not allow excitement to turn into pride. Do not allow relief to become arrogance. The same composure that carried you through accusation must carry you through exposure. Victory handled carelessly can damage what patience built carefully. Understand that divine acceleration is precise. It does not create chaos, it creates clarity. When the truth emerges, it will not scatter confusion. It will settle it. It will answer lingering questions. It will realign perceptions. It will solidify what you have known all along. You endured the waiting season. You carried integrity through pressure. You resisted the urge to defend yourself recklessly. That endurance positioned you for this moment. The countdown is not about punishment for them. It is about vindication for you. The final seconds are unfolding. The pressure has reached its limit. The silence is cracking. The atmosphere is shifting decisively. And as the prophetic countdown reaches its completion, what was hidden will step into undeniable visibility. The truth is not approaching slowly anymore. It is arriving. Swift. Clear. Unstoppable. There is a difference between the one who speaks a lie and the one who allows a lie to breathe. One is active in deception. The other is passive, but still influential. The person who stayed silent when you were falsely accused may not have created the false narrative, but their silence strengthened it. And now, as truth rises, the fall of the silent enabler begins. This fall is not about destruction. It is about exposure. It is about the unveiling of responsibility. When the truth surfaces publicly, attention does not only turn toward the accuser, it also turns toward those who stood nearby and did nothing. Questions emerge naturally. You were there, weren't you? Why didn't you clarify? Did you know this wasn't accurate? These questions carry weight, and weight produces reckoning. For a long time, the silent enabler relied on invisibility. They believed that by avoiding direct involvement, they would avoid consequences. They told themselves that staying out of it was wisdom, that neutrality would keep them safe. But neutrality in moments of injustice is rarely neutral. It leans in a direction, and when silence protects distortion, it aligns with it. The fall begins subtly. It may start with a shift in how others view them. Trust weakens. Credibility wavers. People become cautious. Not because they hate them, but because they now see what silence can conceal. If someone could remain quiet while an innocent person was misrepresented, what else might they remain quiet about? That question alone changes perception. The silent enabler may attempt to reposition themselves once exposure begins. They may offer partial truths. They may claim confusion. They may say they did not want to get involved. But once clarity fills the room, excuses feel thin. The gap between what they could have done and what they chose to do becomes visible. And here's something important. Their fall is not your assignment to manage. You are not called to highlight their failure. You are not responsible for amplifying their silence. Divine correction unfolds without your interference. That is what makes it powerful. When exposure happens independently, it carries credibility. There is also a lesson unfolding in their fall. Silence can feel safe in the moment, but it creates instability in the long term. Integrity requires courage, and courage sometimes demands discomfort. The silent enabler chose comfort over courage. Now they must confront the cost of the choice. This confrontation may happen internally before it happens externally. They may replay the moment where they could have spoken. They may feel regret. They may recognize that a single sentence from them could have prevented weeks of misunderstanding. That awareness is part of the fall. It humbles. It exposes vulnerability. Publicly, the fall may look like diminished influence. People may listen to them differently. Their words may carry less weight. Not because they are permanently discredited, but because trust has been recalibrated. Trust, once shaken, does not immediately restore itself. It rebuilds slowly. But understand this clearly. This is not about revenge. You are not witnessing punishment. You are witnessing principle. There is a spiritual law that governs responsibility. When someone has access to truth and withholds it in moments of injustice, accountability follows. Not always immediately, not always dramatically, but inevitably. As this process unfolds, guard your heart carefully. It is easy to feel justified in their discomfort. It is easy to think, now they understand how it feels. But resist the temptation to celebrate their fall. Maintain the integrity that defined you during accusation. Let your character remain steady. The difference between you and the silent enabler is not perfection. It is posture. When tested, you chose patience. You chose restraint. You chose to trust divine timing. They chose avoidance. And posture determines outcome. There is also redemptive possibility here. Exposure creates opportunity for growth. If the silent enabler acknowledges their failure, if they learn from it, if they choose courage in future moments, restoration is possible for them too. Divine justice is corrective, not cruel. It exposes to teach. But whether they grow or resist is no longer your concern. Your season is shifting forward. A reckoning does not define your destiny. It simply confirms that truth stands. The fall of the silent enabler marks the closing chapter of imbalance. The narrative that once felt unstable is stabilizing. The credibility that once seemed questioned is strengthening. And the space once clouded by silence is clearing. You endured misunderstanding without collapsing. You stood firm without forcing correction. And now you are witnessing the principle of accountability unfold naturally. The fall is not dramatic. It is decisive. It is not loud. It is lasting. And as it unfolds, it confirms something powerful. Silence cannot outrun truth forever. Now we arrive at the final word over your situation. After the accusation, after the silence, after the waiting, after the pressure, the final word is this: truth always rises. It may be delayed. It may be resisted. It may be buried under layers of misunderstanding and fear. But it cannot be permanently suppressed. What is real has a voice. What is aligned with integrity carries weight. And what heaven defends cannot remain hidden forever. You have walked through a season that tested your patience, your confidence, and your faith in ways you did not expect. Being falsely accused is painful. Watching someone who knew better remain silent is even more painful. It shakes trust. It makes you question people. It can even make you question yourself. But through it all, you remain standing. You did not collapse under the weight of distortion. You did not allow bitterness to define your response. You did not chase every rumor trying to correct it. Instead, you endured. Quietly, steadily. And that endurance became your shield. Now the truth is rising, not because you forced it, but because it was time. The 45-second declaration was a signal of acceleration, and what has unfolded since then confirms it. Exposure came. Aggression began. Silence cracked, and your name started to breathe again in rooms where it once felt suffocated. This final word is not only about what happened, it is about what happens next. Your future is not marked by accusation. It is marked by refinement. What you endured sharpened your discernment. It clarified your circle. It strengthened your inner stability. You are not stepping forward as the same person who entered this storm. You are stepping forward stronger. There will be new opportunities ahead, new conversations, new alignments, and you will approach them differently, not with fear, but with wisdom, not with suspicion, but with discernment. What was meant to diminish you has matured you, and here is the assurance you must carry from this moment forward. You are protected. The same divine order that corrected this situation remains active over your life. You are not walking unguarded. You are not navigating alone. Integrity attracts protection. Patience activates defense. And you have walked in both. The person who stayed silent has faced their reckoning. Whether they learn from it or not is now between them and their conscience. You are released from carrying that weight. You are released from replaying that moment. You are released from defending yourself against something that has already been corrected. Truth has done its work. As you move forward, walk boldly, but gently. Confident, but humble. Let your life continue speaking louder than any explanation ever could. You do not need to remind people what happened. The clarity that came will speak for itself. There may still be moments when the memory surfaces, when you remember how it felt to be misunderstood, when you remember the sting of silence. In those moments, remind yourself of this ending. Remind yourself that truth rose. Remind yourself that you stood. Remind yourself that divine timing prevailed. This was not just a battle about words. It was a lesson about alignment. And you aligned correctly. You trusted instead of reacting. You waited instead of forcing. You endured instead of collapsing. That alignment has shaped your next season. So here is the closing declaration over your life. Your name is cleared. Your path is steady. Your future is not stained by falsehood. What tried to define you has dissolved. What tried to weaken you has strengthened you. If this message has spoken directly to your spirit, type "Truth Always Rises" in the comments right now. Blessing code 999 is now activated over your life. As you declare it, you seal this season of vindication and step into your new beginning with confidence and peace. And now, as we close, I speak assurance over you. May peace guard your heart. May clarity surround your reputation. May courage define your future decisions. May integrity remain your foundation. And may every future storm reveal the same truth. You are protected, you are guided, and you are upheld. The silence has broken. The exposure has happened. The correction has come. And the final word stands unshaken. Truth always rises. Now, step forward in it. As truth rises in your life and your name is restored, this is not just your victory. It is a sign that heaven is still moving through this message. Right now, as this word seals your vindication, you have an opportunity to help this same light reach someone else who is still standing in silence. When you sow through Super Thanks, become a member, or release a seed through the PayPal link in the description or the QR code on your screen, you are not supporting a channel, you are sowing into souls. The Lord says, as you give, it shall be given back to you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. This is your moment to respond prophetically. I am inviting you to step into this harvest with me. Let your seed become oil that keeps this light burning for the falsely accused, the misunderstood, and the weary. As you give, may open doors locate you, may restoration multiply in your house, and may divine favor surround your name. Act now. Seal this word with your seed and partner in spreading truth to the nations.